Thanks for your company this morning. We are live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Now, there are renewed concerns about the increasing rate of HIV/AIDS in Ghana as new infections have risen, especially between 2010 and 2016. The country over the past decade has seen a significant decrease in transmission of the disease, but the trend, according to government and stakeholders, has taken a turn for worse. Latest figures show that there's been a 21% increase in new infections across all ages. Speaking on behalf of the President at the opening of the 2018 National HIV and AIDS Research Conference, Minister of Aviation Cecilia Abnadapa said the situation calls for a radical approach.
In 2010 and 2016, new HIV infections have increased by 21% across all ages. The growth of new infections in young people aged between 15 and 24 years was even much higher. It increased by 45%. Yet, over the same period globally, new infections reduced by 16%, with the steepest decline, 26%, occurring in Eastern and Central Africa. Having a rising trend in new infections at a time when many African countries are seeing significant reductions in new infections calls for renewed national commitment to HIV prevention, especially targeting the general population in order to stem the tide.
Government, however, says it's putting measures in place to revamp funds of the AIDS Commission and also roll out an aggressive nationwide campaign.
There has been a general concern among stakeholders about the long silence on HIV and AIDS in the public space. I'm happy to announce that this situation will soon change because the Ghana AIDS Commission, in collaboration with UNAIDS, is coming up with new prevention campaigns. This campaign will leverage the gravitas and clout of prominent Ghanaians to advance the prevention agenda. These prominent people, as national prevention ambassadors, will champion the HIV prevention campaign with a strong national coalition made up of government, civil society, private sector, the media, traditional authorities, and development partners working in concert. This campaign coalition is expected to accelerate our comprehensive prevention agenda towards zero new infections. My government has accepted the challenge and is working assiduously to operationalize the National HIV and AIDS Fund. This fund will not only ensure adequate domestic resources for the HIV and AIDS response, but will also front-load the resources needed to make the national response financially self-reliant on a sustainable basis.
Well, the Ghana Network of Persons Living with HIV and AIDS says government should increase their quota of the District Assembly Common Fund. Emmanuel Sukure is president of the network.
The government has allocated the 0.5 of the District Assembly Common Fund, but yet it is inadequate to enable the AIDS committees to move around the service centers. So we want to appeal to the government to increase from the 0.5 to 2% so that this can enable both the municipal and the district assembly to carry out their services, all to contribute to the national response.
So why this trend? Let's get some answers from the body mandated to provide support, guidance and leadership for the national response to the HIV and AIDS pandemic. That's the Ghana AIDS Commission. Mr. Etuahene Kyeremah is the Director of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation of the Commission. He joins me in studio for a discussion. Great to have you here, sir. So new HIV/AIDS infections in Ghana up by 21% across board, but particularly for young people between the ages of 15 and 24, it's risen by 45%. Why this increase?
Well, a number of factors may account for this, but let me put it simply. It means that Ghanaians are not adhering to the prevention messages that we put out. That is a major issue, because when you look at the DHS of 2014, it showed that knowledge on comprehensive knowledge on HIV prevention had decreased. You know, if you look at the 2008 and 2014 figures, it shows clearly that knowledge level is gone down, which means people are not paying attention. Why? Because we become quite complacent, because we are no longer seeing people who are emaciated because of AIDS. Now, people see the president of NAPLAS who lives with HIV. You see him on TV and you wonder whether he has HIV. Why? Because he's on antiretroviral treatment, and he's been on it for many years, and therefore he's having healthy life. So you can't see emaciated people with HIV unless those who are in denial and continue to refuse to be on antiretroviral treatment. Those are the ones that will be in such condition, and usually they keep themselves away from the public. And so that is one reason, complacency. The other reason is also that young people in particular have become quite liberated, you know, unlike in the years past. And so now they are taking several liberties that expose them to HIV infection. More and more of them are having unprotected sex, and it's not only having one sexual partner, multiple concurrent partners at all times, and that is a very serious risk. Okay, so these are some of the reasons. The other reason, very important reason that I would like to mention, is the fact that many of the people, or this data shows that the number of people who should be on antiretrovirals are actually, not all of them are on antiretrovirals.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because there are many false claims that there is either a herbal medicine that cures, or there is a prayer camp or pastor or prophet who prays for them, and then HIV disappears from the blood. Up till now, there is no cure. All such claims have not been subjected to scientific scrutiny. So depending on them is, is at the individual's risk.
Mr.
But let me say that it is important for anyone who has HIV to be on treatment. If the person is on treatment, within 6 to 12 months, the viral load will go down very drastically to the level of undetection, so that even when the person goes to hospital and the blood is tested, it is most likely the machine will not detect any virus in the body. But that doesn't mean there is no virus, except that it's at the lowest level which the machine cannot detect. And at that level, that person has a very high chance of not transmitting the virus
to another person.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, the issue of knowledge on AIDS prevention being on the decline, according to your statistics, whose fault is it, sir? You say that young people are getting complacent. They don't know anything about HIV or AIDS prevention. Is that not your job, please?
Yes. What I said was that there is complacency, and knowledge on comprehensive HIV prevention is declined. And it's not because prevention activities have declined. So what I just wanted to make that difference clear. Now, the question you are asking, is it whose fault is it?
Because your organization is mandated to educate. In past years, we've seen a lot of campaigns, but that has also, reduced. It's on the decline, actually. Isn't there a correlation between the campaign efforts of the Ghana AIDS Commission and the fact that people don't know how to prevent the transmission or acquiring the virus?
I think in the president's keynote address, this fact was clearly laid out. And he pointed out to the whole nation that investment in HIV is gone down because we are having diminishing funding from our donors. And for that reason, we need to have a domestic fund to support HIV prevention, treatment, and care on sustainable basis so that Ghana can be self-reliant. And that is true because at the time when you had so many, every community was saturated with HIV messages, was when we had loan from the World Bank. And since the World Bank loan ran out, we have had declining funding levels for HIV. And that is why the government has set up the AIDS Fund, and we all have to work together to actually populate, I use the term populate, to fill that basket so that we can have more and more resources to do the programs that we have in place. As for the programs, we have high impact interventions in the country, such as prevention of mother-to-child transmission, general HIV prevention among the general population as well as key affected populations. We also have intensified testing and counseling. We are actually pursuing the 90-90-90 targets as we keep talking about, and we are putting more and more people living with HIV on treatment. The important thing that we all have to do is that we need to reduce the stigma that keeps people away from accessing HIV services in the country. And I think it is incumbent on all of us to work together. And for this reason, I would say that the media plays a major role. And we are happy that multimedia, for example, is waging relentless war on the other AIDS. The other AIDS is acquired integrity deficiency syndrome, which actually is the mother of corruption, which media is waging strong war against. I think we also need to use the same energy and purposeful interventions from the media to also fight against HIV in the country.
Mr. Chani, let's look at this graphic display here. Now we can see the statistics with regards to increase and decrease of HIV infections, new infections across the world. In Africa as a whole, there was a 9% decrease, but in Ghana, there was an increase, and this is the change since 2010 to 2016. Yeah. Are we responding to the HIV issues appropriately in Ghana?
As for the response, yes, we are using the same standard programs or interventions, just as the Southern African countries are using. And you see that globally, the steepest decline was in Eastern and Southern Africa, okay? We are using the same approach.
So why aren't we achieving the same results?
We are not achieving the same results because we are not making adequate investment in HIV prevention and treatment. And that is what, as a country, we need to pay attention to. It's one of the major reasons. Besides, at the individual level, we have become complacent and taking too many risks. Having multiple concurrent partners is a danger, and that is one major reason for increasing levels of new infections among the young people, you know.
So briefly share with us the grand plan to reverse this trend that we're seeing in Ghana.
Okay, so the grand plan is what we keep talking about, achieving the 90-90-90 target. The first 90 says that by 2020, all persons living with HIV in Ghana must be diagnosed. And when they are diagnosed, those who are diagnosed positive should be put on antiretroviral treatment. And all of them should remain on treatment because antiretroviral treatment is for life. And therefore, they should continue to stay on treatment. And within 6 to 12 months, if they continue staying on treatment, they will attain viral suppression. And that is the level at the point where it will become, you know, highly possible for them to also protect their partners from getting HIV because they can rarely transmit the virus to their partners. That is not to say that they shouldn't use protection. They should continue. Once they have HIV, there is a marginal chance that they can transmit the virus. So they should continue to use condoms during sex. However, it is only when the person becomes virally suppressed that we are 100% sure that we can reduce HIV, because treatment is actually the game changer here. We have also intensified mother-to-child prevention of mother-to-child transmission. The challenge we used to have was a situation where we have only about 300, less than 300 antiretroviral treatment centers in the country. Meanwhile, we have more than 3,000 antenatal services, centers. And so now, when we refer them, when people test positive, pregnant women test positive, and we refer them, the treatment sites are far away from, when the treatment sites are far away from where they live, they refuse not to go. Now we are expanding the treatment centers to cover a minimum of 80% of all PMTCT centers in the country, so that pregnant women can access treatment.
So what about the other 90s? You said it was a 90-90-90 target.
Yeah. Yes.
So the first 90 is for
everybody
making sure that
test.
all those who are living with HIV are tested and are on their antiretrovirals.
Yes.
The other 90
is viral suppression.
Okay, and then third 90?
And retention in care. So the third 90 is viral suppression and retention in care. And now, and that is what I explained earlier.
Okay. In your earlier submission, you mentioned the AIDS fund.
Yes.
Do we know how we intend to fuel the supply of money into this fund? I mean, for
Yes, we have planned. There is a committee of the governing board of Ghana AIDS Commission, which is working assiduously in having it launched by the president this year. And so we are going to form partnership with all stakeholders, including the media, and we'll be coming back to you, multimedia, to work out the details.
Do we know when this year?
We plan to have it launched by August, but we need LI, legislative instrument from Parliament. And once we get that, definitely, if we get it before August, then the president will launch the fund. If it is later than that, it definitely must be this year.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yes.
Mr. Kyeremah is the Director of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation at the Ghana AIDS Commission, sharing with us the reasons for this disturbing news, the increase in new infections across board by 21%. And for young people between the ages of 15 and 24, 45%. He shared the plan of the Ghana AIDS Commission with us. Hopefully, we'll receive some good news sometime soon on this disturbing trend. Thank you once again for your time.